KWOC News Time, 8:12. Welcome to Brittney on the Bluff, brought to you each weekday by Today's Computers, Whitworth's Gift Chest Jewelers, First Community Bank, and Key Drugs in Poplar Bluff. Joining us in the studio this morning, we have Poplar Bluff City Manager Heath Kaplan. How are you doing, sir?
Doing fine. How are you this morning?
Absolutely fantastic. So glad you could be with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
You're in the news a lot.
Yeah. That's I'm a famous guy. What can I say?
You just gotta deal with the fame, huh?
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, you know what? We've got a lot that we want to talk about today, but I'd kind of like to start off with, you've been in the job now, what, couple months?
4 months now.
4 months now. Mm-hmm. What do you think so far, as far as the job itself?
Yeah, it's a good community. I've enjoyed it. I can't lie that I'm a little tired right now, and it's because we're crunching a lot of numbers in a short period of time.
Yeah, I bet.
And so... But no, the job's good. The community's been very welcoming. My wife and my family enjoy it here,
Great.
And so
Good deal.
we feel very blessed to be here, and we're happy to serve the community.
Fitting in, huh?
Correct. At least I hope so.
Well, good deal. Good deal. Well, let me ask you this: what do you think so far? What do you think has been the biggest challenge as the job of Poplar Bluff City Manager?
So far. Really, it's. I feel like I'm doing the work of a janitor, and let me explain that. Every time a news article is published in the local DAR, Daily American Republic, I feel like I'm having to go behind them and clean up their work. And I
pick up the mess.
I do, because what they do is they use bits and pieces of any little information. They create some political spin with it, and they're pushing forth an agenda. And maybe that agenda is to sell papers. I don't know. And you know what? There's nothing illegal to it. But unfortunately, I'm spending a lot of my time kind of cleaning up what they are writing, and because people in our community, some people believe what is in that paper is the gospel, and I'm here to tell them that's not the truth. It's not even close to the truth. Some of it is so far-reaching, you almost wonder if when you granted an interview with one of the reporters, were they even in the same room with you?
That's pretty bad.
It is pretty bad, and but again, I'm not here to be overcritical with them. They employ people. They have a business to run. They're there to sell papers. I get it. But a lot of my energy is being kind of going behind them and basically cleaning up their work. And it's something I wasn't anticipating, but however, I'll do it.
Well, hopefully that won't be forever. Eventually it's got to settle down some.
You would think, but if it happens every month while I'm here for eternity, I will do it.
So is this something that you've ever faced in any other community? I would hope not.
No. And the reason why I say that is I'm used to dealing with newspapers. What we have here is a local tabloid. And I'm not used to dealing with a tabloid. Now, is that a bad thing? No, it is what it is. It's the National Enquirer of the local area. I'm not used to dealing with it, but you know what? I'll get acclimated to it. Anyone that knows me knows that I adapt well to my environment, and I acclimate, and I will acclimate and deal with it.
That's good. Well, like I say, I hope it doesn't continue forever for you.
Well, thank you.
Because I know it's got to be a big pain in the rump.
It can be.
Well, as far as the challenge, that's of course been your biggest challenge. What do you think has been your biggest success so far? I know it's kind of hard to have a whole lot of successes in just a few months, but you've been working on some pretty big projects already.
Yeah, I think the greatest success of the city so far is getting their finances in a format that is, one, easy to understand, but two, fully discloses all the activities of the government, from the governmental side to the enterprise side. We just finished presenting the fiscal year 2015 proposed budget. Yesterday, I think it went really well. I think it provided full disclosure to our public and to our council as to the activities that are going on. Myself and the consultant Neil Conway, as that was written about recently in the DAR and the Southeast Missourian, was a huge help and added to the success of that project. But also with that, I think our aggressive approach towards reinvesting in capital assets that have long depreciated here in this community, as I'm very proud of that. And something I want to talk about with our community is everyone that's been reading the paper have been concerned about spending.
Yeah.
Well, the spending's been capital expenditures, and it's the half-cent sales tax that was passed in 1989. And when you look at that original brochure, which I looked at recently just yesterday, again, it promised capital expenditures. I can't use that money to pay salaries. I can't use it for operational losses at the Coliseum. I can only use it for bricks and mortar capital investments. That means any single item that's $1,500 in value or greater will qualify. And so that money, you should not have it just sitting in a bank drawing which little interest you're getting in today's banks.
Right. Yeah, it's not worth it, is it?
No, you need to. Your promise to the community was you were going to reinvest it back into fixed assets of the community. That's what I'm doing. And so what I want to remind the public at large and the business owners and the taxpayers of the community is this money is going to work for them. For every dollar reinvest back into information technology, I think they're going to see that back tenfold. Again, the city hasn't had a voicemail system. They haven't had a reliable telecommunications system. They haven't had a reliable network for all departments. They haven't even had a unified server room for all activities. I say this is 2014, almost 2015. And the city has been that far behind.
Back in the 1980s or something.
Well, I think even before that. Really the mainframe era was in the 70s. And so we were really far behind here. But again, I think that's a success, is getting those capital improvements aggressively moving forward. Not only with the technology, we've got roads that need to be paved. We've got sidewalks that need to be constructed. We've got a lot of people in this community. If you look at the current pulse of the community, we've got a lot of outdoors people here. People that like to run, people like to walk, but they got nowhere safe to walk or run, unless they're going to be in the middle of the road, which we don't want. We want them to be safe. And so we got to start doing our part as a government to provide infrastructure for what our community needs, and that's what we're starting to do.
Maybe some trails and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Let me ask you, would any kind of, say, a flood control project fall into that category?
It would, and actually it's part of when we went to each of the wards regarding the budget workshop process. That was the most consistent item that was brought up.
I can imagine. We have a lot of problems with it. So.
Yeah, other than substandard structures and other than the gravel roads, people are very concerned about the drainage of the community, which they should be. Because if you look at the hodgepodge of drain ditches that are in the community, some are owned and controlled by the city and some are privately owned, which we can't control them. So what we're proposing to do in our fiscal 2015 budget is to start a master plan of all drainage within the community so we can start proactively tackling the problem. Right now we've just been reacted to a flood when it happens, like in 2011.
Exactly.
We don't want to be in that position anymore. We want to be proactive.
Excellent. What are some other examples of improvements that would fall into that category?
Well, the other item,
computer systems, like you were mentioning, that sort of thing.
The other thing that we talked about was a reinvestment, not only just in technology, but basically assets and tools that our law enforcement needs. Our law enforcement officers that protect us on a day-to-day basis, they didn't have modal data units, computers that were even in their cars. So let's say they pulled over someone that was a bad guy, and they were going to run the plate. Well, they have to call dispatch on the radio system from the 1930s technology. Hey, can you run plate XYZ? And they do it, and they can either get the information readily available to them, but sometimes pressing seconds tick off while they're sitting there waiting and possibly at risk. And so when they have a modal data unit that's in their car, they can run it themselves. 1, 2, it just improves the efficiency of the officer being on the road more than they are in the office writing paperwork and citations. All this is going to be electronic. It's going to improve the efficiency of the department, and I think it's going to provide a better product to the community. And with that, what we introduced last night was a strong push by the city to consolidate our 911 dispatch center with the county.
I heard a little bit about that. I think that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, right now we've got 2 different dispatches that are separated by 1 road. It's crazy to be right across the street from them.
I know.
The city council workshopped the item yesterday, which will move to the voting session to a future meeting, December 29th, to where we will make a very worthwhile investment, if approved, towards the protection proactively of all of our citizens, businesses, Because right now, 911, the way that we do it now is just not the best way. It's not efficient. It doesn't follow best practices.
It's a little slow.
It's a little slow. It's
when
not
it comes to the
proactive,
response,
and
yeah.
we can do better. The citizens and the business owners and the taxpayers of Poplar Bluff deserve better, and we're going to give them better.
And the thing with something like that is the people there in the department are doing the best they can with what they've got to work with.
That's been, I think, if you ask me what's the greatest compliment I can give, not only to the police department or the fire department or all employees of the city, from the government side to the enterprise side, you have very hard-working individuals here. They were given sometimes very little to work with, and you know what, they made do with what they had, and they still provided, in my opinion, very good customer service. Now we, of course, have opportunities, where a time or two we haven't provided good customer service, but we're gonna refocus our efforts to make sure we're doing that. But also, I just want to compliment all the employees of the city. I think they're doing the best job they can, and we're going to continue to support them by providing them with the necessary tools to do their job.
Yeah. What do you think about, say, the issue of cameras on all law enforcement? If that's something that gets passed on a national level, at least we've got the money to take care of it.
We do, and
where
actually,
a lot of communities don't even have that reserve.
No, and actually, we did already purchase body cameras for all of our officers. We did. That was already approved. Actually, we have them on site, and we actually are training. We'll be training the staff.
So it's a non-issue for us.
Non-issue. We're going to be, if not the first department, one of the first departments that has every officer in rank and file that have a body cam on them. So that will be deployed here in the next month.
Very cool.
We're very excited about that.
Yeah, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, you kind of briefly just mentioned the consultant thing, and of course, there was a little stink over that, I think anytime when you're spending money, there's going to be somebody that's not happy with what you're spending it on.
Right.
So you can't really please everybody on that. But
No.
what was the purpose of bringing this particular consultant into the community, and what was he looking for? What was he trying to accomplish?
Well, when I first accepted the job, one of the things that I could see even from afar and looking at their financial statements is I knew that we had to clean up the city's finances as quickly as possible. And I knew we were going to have a very short period of time to get the budget ready because we're on a calendar fiscal year.
Yeah.
And so I knew that we were going to have a full court press to be able to get things done. First of all, we have an accounting system, but it's not cleaned up, and so the data in there is jumbled, and so I needed to select a consultant, and I needed someone that I've worked with before, someone I was comfortable with, someone that I really believe provided the best value for the community in regards to services, because we have one accountant for the city. And that one accountant was still finishing up the sale of the cable franchise. And so with that, it left the government side with the need to have a finance advisor or an accountant. In this case, it's both. And so Mr. Conway came in and has been working with me side by side, not only with me, but with staff. And if you ask anyone, ask Chief Whiteley, you ask Mark Massingham, who's the finance director, you ask anyone that's at the city physically working with the consultant, they'll tell you that we're getting our money is well invested and it's well worth the money. And with that, the article that was, again, in the DAR, $50,000 and counting. Well, the thing that I thought was the most interesting about that is I don't want you to think in the community I don't think $50,000 is a lot of money, because it is.
Well, sure.
But however, it is a worthwhile investment to get our finances in order, but to make sure we're in a position to move forward. But what I think is interesting is when you combine all the total expenditures of the city, it's $68 million, okay?
$50,000 is not much.
No, you're talking
compared to that kind of number.
You're talking 0.07% is what they're talking about. And if you look at their articles, they're obviously focused on me, which is fine. I would ask you, let's say, what percentage do you think the city manager's budget is as a percentage of expenditures on the general fund after I've added an assistant, after I've added a grants department? What would you say that impact was, if you had to guess?
Oh man.
You would think 75%,
Yeah,
right?
well, I would think it was definitely more than 0.07%.
Right. Well,
I would put it probably in the 20 to 30%.
yeah, well, the city manager's office, and this is just the general fund, so it'll be even smaller than this overall funds. The city manager's department is only 2.24% of the general fund.
Wow.
That's it, and that's with the addition of new staff. That's correct. Now, the other thing is Mr. Conway we talked about. He's a part contractual service of the finance department. The finance department is only 4.02% of all expenditures, so that 50,000 is even smaller portion of that 4.02% of all expenditures. Is, again, let's go back to the script here, is DAR, they have one goal in mind, is to sell papers, and the more and more they complain about what I'm doing, I guess some people are obviously buying the papers or they wouldn't, keep writing the articles about me.
Somebody must be.
But they're making, a mountain out of an anthill.
Yeah.
And so, for example, why aren't they talking about the 8 Points development that's been going on north of the community? Is that a good development? I think time will tell. I think it is a good development, but however, the city paid a huge dear price for that development. We are basically, through the reimbursements to the development group 8 Points, we're basically paying people to incentivize retailers and businesses to come to our community.
Right.
Now, that's fine.
It's not that uncommon either.
No.
That happens every day.
It happens, and cities need to do that to be able to, again, grab new money and new investments. That happens. But if anyone pulled the curtain aside to that development, you've got in our TDD $38 million that was invested so far there. You have on our tax increment finance authority a cap of up to $35 million in addition that can be invested in that authority. That's, there's what, $70 million roughly.
That's a ton of cash.
A ton of cash.
Yeah.
It was negotiated by the previous administrator. Again, why wasn't that heavily scrutinized? That has more financial impact than anything I could ever do. If I could go back in time and I was the city manager at the time, I can guarantee you wouldn't be seeing an agreement like this in place. Now it's an agreement. My job as the city manager is to follow it.
Right.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's not a good agreement, but you know what? At this point, I can't dispute the merits of it. My job is to follow it. But in following it, the other thing I'd like to point out is we agreed to put aside revenues that were supposed to be going into a special allocation fund. We set the base year for the Tax Increment Finance Authority in 2011. That means everything in 2012 and beyond should have been captured into this agreement and this authority. Well, it is, but those funds haven't been set aside, so guess what? We got funds commingled with the city's revenues right now, which we'll have to fix, and again, we will. But again, why isn't there an article about that in the DAR? I can go on, and again, I'm not here to talk bad about the paper. It's just something that it just frustrates me that they would just make these little issues into gigantic issues, but the big issues they completely ignore. And the other thing that's a frustration for me as well is I took all the time to write a newsletter, a very detailed newsletter, and I gave it directly to the paper, and they have yet to publish not one single word from that letter. And that's fine. They had the choice of doing it, and they chose not to. So moving forward, I've talked with the mayor, I've talked with the city council members, and what we're going to do is with my next newsletter, which we're hoping to release this coming January 2015, we're going to mail it to all addresses in Poplar Bluff.
I think that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, that way, since the paper won't print it, that's fine. We'll go ahead and print it ourselves at our expense, and we will mail it out. And, for the small investment it takes for some stamps and some envelopes, I think it's worth it for people to be adequately informed versus reading the information that is these sensationalized articles. They're very, very far from the truth. They're actually stretching the truth, in my opinion. So,
well, thank you
for
your opinion.
Sure.
That's what this show is all about, is to be able to discuss what's happening in our community and give our folks a chance to kind of form their own opinions.
Yep.
I know that they've been getting one side of the story, and I wanted them to have the other side of the story so they can make their own choices and decisions about these issues.
Yeah, and that's all I want from anyone. I mean, again, if the community, after they hear, in my opinion, the real facts, I think they can make an informed decision as to are we going in the right direction. And if we're not, after they get the real facts, then we can make a course correction. But I believe as I'm walking through this community, as I'm talking to business owners and taxpayers alike, I'm getting a lot of encouragement. You'd be surprised how little. I have yet to hear someone pull me off to the side here in this community and say, boy, let's talk about this paper. I have yet. I've been here 4 months, and I have yet
That's not happened yet.
I walk around. I don't hide from anyone. Every weekend I'm usually at Ryan's Buffet having breakfast. Then I go to Walmart. I do the rounds, and people obviously know who I am because it's kind of hard to hide from the spotlight that's been put on me. But no one has stopped me and said, boy, you're doing an awful job for our community. It's been the opposite. It's stay the course. Please don't misjudge our community based on what you're reading in the paper. And I said, of course I'm not doing that. The people in this community are very resilient. They're very polite. They're good people. And that's why I'm hoping I can be here for a while.
Excellent. And you told me before the show started you're getting a house today.
We're hoping to be closing on a house today. Yep. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Yep. So we're gonna
we want you to settle in, get comfortable.
I'm gonna get real comfortable.
Yeah.
And again,
Good.
again, that's I'm just happy to be here.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more with Heath Kaplan, Poplar Bluff City manager, and get his opinion on some of the projects going on in our community, what the future holds, all that good stuff. Don't go anywhere. KWOC News Time, 8:33.
Always
KWOC News Time, 8:37. Welcome back to Brittney on the Bluff. Brought to you, of course, by our fine sponsors, Today's Computers, Whitworth's Gift Chest Jewelers, Key Drugs, and First Community Bank. On the show this morning, we've been talking with City Manager Heath Kaplan. Great discussion so far, Mr. Kaplan. I sure appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us today.
No, I appreciate it.
I know you're a busy guy.
Well, I try not to be, but it seems to always be busy.
You're a busy guy because every time I try to call, it takes a couple of efforts to be able to catch you. Because you're just such a busy person. So I know how it really is. It's a sign that you really want to get your message out, to take time out of your schedule and come hang out with us today. And we appreciate that.
No, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, we had a huge news story here in Poplar Bluff Friday, and that, of course, an officer-involved fatal shooting. I'm kind of excited to hear about the fact that we're going to have these cameras on our officers eventually, so that we can. In my opinion, there won't be questions after that, or there won't be as many questions in cases after that. I don't think that this is going to see the kind of blowback that we've seen with some other incidents involving officers and shootings and that kind of a thing.
Right.
For one thing, the guy had a knife.
Right.
But there's always going to be that little element that thinks something's going on.
Yeah.
Something isn't right here.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory kind of folks.
Yeah, it is. And the only thing that's very disheartening by myself, and I think I can speak for public officials across the country alike, is I think we're looking at each other. How did we get here?
Yeah.
I
thought that too.
How did we become all of a sudden the enemy?
When did the police become the bad guys?
Right, and they're not.
They're not. Of course they're not.
And again, there needs to be a national full court press towards supporting our local law enforcement agencies across this country. I'd like to see them do it. I'd like to see them take the time and the training, and also obviously the stress, to be able to protect our citizens on a day-to-day basis. And it's easy for people to criticize from afar, like the talking heads out there on CNN or Fox News or whatever. But I don't see them out there trying to do the job. And so I think we need to take a moment to check ourselves and to check our priorities. Now, with that being said, any loss of life is tragic.
Of course.
No one.
I don't think anybody's ever argued that.
No one argues that.
What I mean?
You know what? I guarantee you, the officers feel the exact same way.
Sure they do.
However, they have a job to do. If an officer's life is threatened, or if the life of a citizen is threatened, they are going to protect it. That's just the way it works, folks. And guess what? It's their training and it's the law. There's nothing unlawful of an officer protecting themselves.
Right.
And so in our case, it was an incident, believe it or not, that happened in less than a minute. We had a call to a victim that was stabbed multiple times. By the way, that person had to be airlifted out. That's how bad the person was stabbed.
Right, yeah.
And
very
we had
serious injuries.
Very serious, and we had officers to the scene. And unfortunately, it resulted in the end of life of the perpetrator. But in this case, the officers followed the book. They followed proper procedure. They followed their training. And so we need to support our law enforcement agencies. There was an article that was written in the SEMO Times regarding the individual that was deceased, and if you read the article further, in my opinion, it incited. It was geared towards, my opinion, inciting violence in our community. It tried to put links in there for Ferguson and New York City. And nothing couldn't be any further from the truth.
I just started to say I don't really see any comparisons whatsoever.
There is none. Cases. There is none. But again, last night I addressed that in my city manager report. Is I feel that the SEMO Times did the community a disservice by writing that article. I think they owe our police officers and the police department an apology, and I asked them to retract that article, because I think it was a very careless article, and I think it put our our folks in the blue at risk, because the last thing we want is for people to act out in violence against our police officers that are only there to protect them. That makes no sense. That's crazy.
I'm 100% behind you on that.
And so what I'd ask everyone to do is, not all of us, I think, take time to say thank you and to say good job to our police officers and fire department officials alike. And I'd like to ask people in Poplar Bluff, if you just have some spare time, write them a note, pat them on the back, shake their hand, bring them a donut. I know that's a cliche. Bring them a pizza for lunch. Say thank you, because folks, these people don't make a lot of money. They do it because they want to serve the community. They want to protect us, and they do a good job. And so I like to compliment the police department for handling this situation, in my opinion, very well. But I think we need to, as a community, we need to surround and support this department, because they're here only for us. I'd like to see more people, not just in Poplar Bluff, but this nation abroad, say thank you once. It's such a simple two-word statement, but you know what? It means a lot to a lot of people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you for serving.
Absolutely.
Thank you for protecting my community. Thank you for protecting my kids every day. The cops that are in schools every day. I take that very personally, because they're protecting my kids, and that's my most precious asset. And so, I think we need, as a community, to come together and support our police department, which I know they've done historically, and I know they'll continue to do. But I just ask them again, is say thank you to your police department, because I think they do an awesome job.
I think that's a very valid point. And those people that they're always looking for the bad in officials and that sort of a thing, which I'm not saying that every police officer in every department across the entire nation is, the top-notch upright guy that he should be, or woman,
right,
or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is the majority of them are.
Correct.
The majority of them are
right.
there for the right reasons.
Yep.
They're doing the best they can in split-second decision moments.
Yep.
I would hate to have to face that kind of decision.
Mm-hmm.
To fire on somebody or not fire on somebody. I don't want to be put in that position.
No.
That's why I'm not a law enforcement officer, sure.
Well, and put yourself in the shoes of the officer that had to pull that trigger.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. To have to make that kind of decision that quick, just in the split second
right.
where things like that happen.
Right.
I don't want to have that kind of responsibility.
No,
I'm so grateful for those people that can take that on.
Yes.
And those people that are bitching and moaning all the time, pardon me for saying it that way, but I mean, let's be honest, that's what some people do. How would you like to be that person with somebody coming at you with a knife?
Yeah, exactly.
What would you do
exactly
in that situation? Somebody is rushing towards you
right.
with a knife. They've already seriously injured somebody else.
Right. Well,
it's crazy.
Well,
why are we villainizing
I don't know.
the good guys?
And again, the part that it kills me even more is how this thing has taken a political life on its own. It's almost like it's just, like I said, it's just moving on its own. You've got professional football players and basketball players that are making political statements. You've got now actors that are getting into the fray.
Actors are always sticking their nose in everything.
But what are we trying to? What's the lesson here? What are we teaching our children?
Exactly.
We're teaching our children that it's okay to disrespect and to threaten law enforcement agencies.
That's exactly what's being taught.
That's not the lesson here. The lesson is that these folks are partners in our community. They care for our community. They invest in our community for very little financial gain. They do it because it's a passion of theirs. They do it for the protection of our community. And I'd just like to see it start somewhere. And why not Poplar Bluff? Let's start a movement to where we are supporting law enforcement here, and hopefully it catches on, nationally. Because again, it's not that myself don't feel that loss of life is tragic. It is.
Of course,
and
it is.
but we got to get. As a society, we got to get past this racial divide that seems like we have in this country. is, it's beyond that. This isn't black or white. This is law. It's either you follow the law or you don't follow the law. You don't.
Good guys versus bad guys is what it is.
You don't follow the law. You don't follow the law. Guess what? There's consequences.
Penalties.
There is, and you know what? And if you resist, guess what? There's further consequences, and sometimes that results in someone's loss of life. Now, that's not the ultimate goal of anyone, including myself. But you know what? There are rules, there are regulations, there are laws. We built this country on a system of laws, starting with our Constitution. Let's not disrespect the memory of our forefathers and the people that died for this country, that continue to die for this country every day because of our freedoms and for the rule of law. And so at the time that we become this society that we don't care about law anymore, is we're going to lose our identity and we're going to lose our community. So
that's well put. Well put. Well, we've only got a little bit of time left. Here we are about to start a new year, and it'll be about your 6-month mark, won't it?
That's getting there, yeah.
When we start the new year. What do you think your big challenges for 2015 are going to be?
There's really two major challenges that I'm going to be working on. I mean, there's more than that, but I want to talk about two categories. One is we're talking about the Black River Coliseum. And that's been in the paper and it's been in the community. But folks, that there is some major operational losses going on over there. And so the good news is I've talked with the advisory committee for the BRC, and I think they're going to be very cooperative in working with me to find a solution for the problem. Secondly, I've engaged all the employees of the BRC. There's 5 of them. And we're going to take on this challenge. We're going to make this right. We're going to make sure that we put forth a full effort to make sure that we are bringing down expenses and increasing revenues for the facility. And so that's going to be a major project to take on for 15. Second is our electric utility. You got a utility that is 87% of all of our revenue on our enterprise side come from the electric utility. 84% of all of the expenses of the utilities come from electric. But what people don't understand is even with these big numbers, we're still taking on operational losses in the electric utility.
Really?
And so that's why I've been saying, hey, look, we might have to talk about an increase in electric rates. Talk about it. Again, I shouldn't be villainized because I bring up that nasty word.
Let's talk.
Right, let's talk about it. And so, again, I've been criticized about that in the paper. That's fine. They have the right to their opinion. But I'm working through the proper channels. I'm working through the advisory committee of the Municipal Utility Board. We're going to work the problem together. I'm working with Bill Bach and his staff that come up with solutions. We're putting together a 1-year financial projection which will follow a rate design. And with that, I got to get the full consensus of my utility advisory board to help guide me as to what's the proper way to move the utility forward. Is it with rate increases? Is it with other adjustments that can be made to the budget? I don't know. The point is we have to talk about it. And then if the ultimate decision is made that, we might have to raise utility rates, okay, but we didn't take it very lightly. We never take that lightly because we know the impact that has on our community. But again, we're going to look at it. We're going to make the best decision for the utility, and then we're going to move it to the council, where ultimately they got to make that decision. Whatever it is, either it is to raise rates or it's not to raise rates. Ultimately, the council is the fiduciary agent of all activities in the city.
Right.
And so that's another major project that'll be taken on in 2015. Thirdly is we're making a major push towards securing more federal and state and local grants. I think Ozark Foothills Regional Planning Commission does an awesome job. Felicity does a great job there as their director, and staff. They just do an awesome job but they don't serve just Poplar Bluff. They don't just serve Butler County. They serve a multi-county region. And so that's why we pulled in.
She's got her hands full, in other words.
That's right. That's why we pulled in our own grants coordinator to pound the ground to find us more money. And so there's going to be a major effort in 2015 towards that as well. And so again, those are just 3 simple topics, but very complex topics that we're going to be taking on in 2015. And I'm happy to be the individual charged with taking on those challenges.
Excellent. Well, you've worked in multiple communities in your career. As far as comparing Poplar Bluff to what you've seen in the past, what do you think about the involvement of our citizens in the city council, in the city, and what's going on with the community and stuff. I've always wondered how we kind of compare to other communities when it comes to that kind of thing.
Well, I can tell you everywhere I've been, the local public, I think even when you look at local politics and elections, it's a very small minority of people that pay attention. I don't know where that comes from. It probably comes from years and years of watching political gridlock over the years. Who knows? But as my career has progressed over 10 years, it's been a very small minority of individuals that do come to the meetings that are involved. But where Poplar Bluff is a little different is, even though it is still a minority that's involved, it's a larger group than in previous communities. So you do have a larger group here that is concerned about the decisions being made by their local government, which is good, and they hold them accountable. It's not just the city. These people hold the school district accountable. They hold the library district accountable, Parks Department. I can go on and go on, TRC, sure. You name it. They hold us all accountable, and that's a compliment to this community. Is they're not going to blindly just sit on the sideline and keep quiet and say, everything's fine. If they got a problem, they're going to tell you. You know what? And I respect that, because I'm that same way. Anyone that knows me is I'm a very direct individual. This community is very direct. I like it. And so even if it's something I don't want to hear, you know what? Guess what? They're paying me to hear it. And
it's all part of the job, isn't it?
Part of the job. So, but that's where I would compliment the community, is they are very interested in the direction their government's going, and not afraid to express their opinion.
Well, it seems like we've had several things happen where we've just had kind of a bit of an uproar throughout the community. And I was wondering if you had seen a lot of that in your past associations with city governments.
Bits and pieces, but not to the extreme here. But that's okay. I mean, again, every community is unique in its own right. But there was just a lot going on in this community. There was a major transition made, not just politically, but management-wise. And anytime that happens, there is a rift. There is a wake that's,
right. It's kind of left behind.
We just gotta wait for it to smooth out. And I'm hoping, in 2015, keep my fingers crossed that things will start smoothing out for us.
So, say a genie in a bottle granted you a wish for our community. What would the most important thing be that you would like to see happen for Poplar Bluff in, say, the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, if I had a wish, I'd want there to be an equal distribution of services throughout the community. I think there's been this mixed patchwork of investments that have been made by the government, the city, throughout the city. I think we need to equally distribute the services and the wealth throughout all of our wards. I think there's been a patchwork of that throughout the past. And so if I had a wish, I want everyone to equally get the same balanced services and the same support from their government as everyone else gets. And that includes business and residents alike. I think there's been just a disproportionate imbalance of how we've delivered our services, and so I'm looking to fix that. But if a genie popped out of here today, that's all I want for anyone. Is I just want everyone to be treated equally,
everybody prosper, and everybody
fairly, and everyone
feel safe.
Right. I want all of our children to prosper. I want all of our children to be safe. I want all of our community members to be happy, because they deserve it. This is a very hardworking community, and they deserve nothing but the best.
Excellent. Well, Mr. Kaplan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, for taking time to come hang with us today. Some great information. And again, I kind of want you to look at us as when you need to get that message out to the community, call me. Okay?
I will. I'm hoping I'll be back here in early 15.
Excellent. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
KWOC News Time is 8:57. Thank you so much for joining us today. Been a great show. Of course, if you'd like to hear it again, or maybe you want to share some of the information you heard today with your friends, family members, whatever the case may be, coworkers, you can always find a recording of Brittney on the Bluff on our Facebook page. I always try to get that online by about noon the day of the interview, or sooner, hopefully earlier than that. So again, if you want to share this information, tell somebody about it, just send them the link, okay? Check it out on our Facebook page. By the way, we've got lots of chances for you to win with KWOC. You'll find out about all of those on our Facebook page as well. It's the last day for you to get your entries in for the Larry Hillis Ugly Sweater Contest. Also the last day for the TRC and Me Selfie Contest. Get all the details on both of those at our Facebook page and be watching for more chances for you to win. We're going to try to make 2015 the year of winning right here on KWOC. Thanks for joining us. We'll do it again tomorrow right here on Today's Talk, KWOC 930 AM and 93.3 FM.
I've got some beautiful